The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Quote, Finance Minister, 2022, this is a line we shall not cross. Then she listed 3 lines. 1, that the deficit would only go down. It went up. 2, that she would pay off the COVID debt. Not only has she not paid off a penny, the debt has gone up. And 3, that the debt to GDP ratio would only drop, and it has risen. Did the Finance Minister voluntarily cross her own lines, or did the Prime Minister push her?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is once again putting on his little dramatic acts because he is trying to distract Canadians from the core facts. Interest rates are down again. Canadians will be getting a tax break over the next 2 months, despite the best efforts of the Conservative leader, who, once again, twice this past week, saw that this House has no confidence in him. And third, 3 million Canadians are now approved for access to dental care for the coming year. These are things that he stood against, but Canadians are getting anyway.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is silencing his own finance minister. She was already wildly irresponsible with the public purse, but not irresponsible enough for him. She wanted to keep the deficit at a already massive $40 billion. He said it's not enough. Canadians are not paying enough inflation, according to him. So once again, did she voluntarily smash through her fiscal guardrail, or did he push her?
Yeah.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition puts on these little performances because he wants to try and distract Canadians from the facts. We have the lowest deficit amongst G7 countries and will continue to. We are the 3rd largest receiver in the world of foreign direct investment, #1 per capita in the G20, because countries around the world and companies around the world have confidence not just in Canada but in Canadians. The question that people should ask is, why doesn't the Leader of the Opposition have confidence in Canada or confidence in Canadians?
I know it's Wednesday and colleagues are very enthusiastic to participate, but I would invite them not to take the floor unless recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians do not have confidence in him, nor does his own party or his own cabinet, nor apparently does the Bank of Canada, which today was forced into an emergency panicked rate cut to confront the collapsing economy. The governor of the bank said the economy is softer than he expected it would be, and despite the fact that inflation is rising, that all 4 measures of it are above the target, he's being forced to cut the rates to save the economy from outright collapse. When will the Prime Minister stop breaking the economy and call a carbon tax election so we can fix it?
Again, I'm going to ask members not to take the floor unless recognized by the Chair. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
This is completely illogical.
Say that in English. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, he's just making this stuff up in a way you couldn't believe. Inflation has been within the target range of the Bank of Canada for over 10 months now. This is because we have been there to help Canadians with things like dental care, like a school food program, with investments that are growing the economy in a way that has brought down inflation and allowed the Bank of Canada to cut rates faster than just about any other G7 country. We are there for Canadians. He's the one voting against things.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You know what's up? Inflation's up. Unemployment is up. Inflation is up. It's not only up, every single measure of inflation is now above its target. Unemployment is up. It's at 10% in Toronto now.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, please start again.
You know what's up? Inflation's up. All four measures of inflation are now above target. Unemployment's up. In Toronto, it's over 10%. You know what else is up? Housing costs. They've actually doubled. They've risen more than in any other country in the G7. You know what else is up? Food bank use is up. It too has doubled, with 2 million people lined up at the food bank. And you know what else is up again? The promise-breaking inflationary deficit. So why doesn't he tell us, if he's figured out how to count, what the deficit will be this year?
Right. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one has to take a moment to appreciate how difficult it must be to be the Leader of the Opposition at a time when things are getting better for Canadians. He spends all his time, and has for the past...
That's enough.
I'm going to ask members, please, in particular the members from Portage, Lisgar, as well as from Abbotsford, not to take the floor unless recognized by the Speaker. I'm going to invite the Right Honourable Prime Minister to start again.
Mr. Speaker, the challenges faced by the Leader of the Opposition is that he spent so long explaining to Canadians that everything is broken that when things start to get better, he refuses to actually help Canadians. He's voted against a tax break for Canadians over the next few months. He's voted against the dental care that's helped already well over 1 million Canadians. He is stuck in a place where, as Canadians are starting to come through the difficult times the global economy has put them in, he needs to continue to talk down Canadians, talk down our economy, and scare people into voting for him. It won't work.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Bloc voted once again for $21 billion in federal spending from the centralizing government. In total, $500 billion inflationary, centralizing, liberal spending, more power for the government here in Ottawa, less money in the pockets of Quebecers. What did the Prime Minister offer the Bloc leader to convince him to support these big deficits, bureaucracy, and inflation that the federal government is imposing? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. His question, the question that all Quebecers and Canadians should ask is why, on the contrary, is the Conservative Party voting against funds for affordable housing. They voted against military aid for Ukraine. They voted against funding for auto theft fights in Canada, against support to victims of hate crime, against dental care. They voted against the National Food Program for schools. The question isn't why parliamentarians supported this. It's why the Conservative leader stands up against Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, because money is never going to do what he's saying. They're just increasing bureaucracy in Ottawa like they always do. But the Bloc leader says he needs to support the government spending by voting for these appropriations. Otherwise, everything will just shut down like it does in the U.S. But we're not the U.S. If appropriation isn't approved, the government doesn't close. There's an election. It gives people a choice. Will the Prime Minister pay for classes on how the parliamentary system works for the Bloc leader? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're starting to get used to this disdain from the Conservative leader against the government, members of the government. But now the fact he's starting to disdain other members of this parliament, other leaders, shows truly his approach, which is truly not worthy of this place or the responsibility that we all have to defend the interests of Canadians. But he cannot explain why he voted against a tax break for Canadians. He can't explain why he voted against dental care for seniors. So he decides to attack and to insult people. Canadians deserve better, Mr. Speaker.